So, is Dolly the next Art the Clown? Probably not, but after watching this movie, I can absolutely see the potential. Dolly has the creepy look, the brutal kills, a possible interesting backstory, the potential for a franchise, and enough psychological issues to keep a therapist employed for all eternity. The problem is, Art the Clown immediately felt unique. Dolly mostly feels like somebody looked at Leatherface and thought, what if we made him a weird babysitter? And trust me, that sentence somehow becomes even stranger once the movie starts. Because this film features diapers, pacifiers, bottle feeding, breastfeeding, and more creepy dolls than your local Goodwill or your weird neighbor. Today we're talking about Dolly, a 2026 horror film. I know it's technically 2025, but I don't go to film festivals yet. I'm not that bougie. That's clearly trying to create its own horror icon. And honestly, it's not bad. The killer is memorable, the gore is fantastic, the setting is creepy, but by the time the credits rolled, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen most of this before. The movie opens with a POV shot from underneath a bed. Immediately, we're in this creepy old house filled with dolls, bugs, flies, that's also a bug, and enough health code violations to shut down an entire county. Then we discover why there are flies everywhere. There's a dead body. And our killer is basically playing with it like it's a Barbie doll, which is certainly one way to introduce your villain. We're then introduced to Chase and his girlfriend Macy. They drop Chase's daughter off with her aunt because Chase has a big romantic plan. He's taking Macy to a scenic overlook to propose, which means if you've seen literally any horror movie ever, you already know this man is not making it to the proposal. The couple heads into the Tennessee wilderness, where they discover something that would immediately convince any sane person to leave. But this is a horror movie. You have to have some dumb decisions, don't you? Well, in Dolly you do. There's a bunch of creepy dolls nailed to trees, and also eerie music playing in the distance. And somehow Chase thinks, you know what, let's investigate. No, absolutely not. If I find one doll nailed to a tree, I'm leaving. If I find 20 dolls nailed to trees, I'm moving to a whole different state. Then we meet Dolly. She's dressed like Mrs. Claus, she's crying, she's standing in the woods, and for a brief moment, you think maybe she's some lost woman who needs help. But no, she didn't just get lost on her way back to her cabin after hitting both Old Smoky distilleries and Sugarlands back to back to back. She isn't Dolly Parton either. She turns around, reveals a creepy mask, lifts a grown man off the ground by his neck, and caves his face in with a shovel. This scene is brutal. We're talking broken bones and a jaw that's hanging on by pure determination. And honestly, this is where the movie hooked me. The biggest strength of Dolly is actually Dolly herself. The movie has this dirty, grainy visual style that constantly reminded me of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. The house is creepy, the woods are creepy, the doll shrine is creepy, everything feels grimy and uncomfortable. On top of that, this was shot in film. But Dolly is basically what would happen if Leatherface had a sister who was obsessed with dolls and completely detached from reality. I feel like Leatherface might be a lot more reasonable. Just call him Bubba and you should be okay. When Macy wakes up inside Dolly's house, things get weird. And I mean really weird. She's trapped in a crib, Dolly puts a diaper on her, a pacifier in her mouth, feeds her mystery sludge that I haven't seen since my elementary school cafeteria back in 2008, and essentially decides that Macy is now her new baby doll. This movie commits so hard to the bit that I couldn't help but respect it. And the house itself is fantastic. Every room looks like it's filled with asbestos and lead paint, and has been collecting mold and cigarette smoke since the Civil War. It's kind of like the only affordable houses that are left when you go on Zillow in 2026. Yeah, all the houses will look like this. That's Dolly's house. That's Dolly's house. Then we get the moment where I completely lost my mind. I won't say exactly what happens, but the bottle of milk Dolly feeds Macy, I was really hoping it was formula, but no, it is definitely not. And I just sat there staring at the screen wondering, how did we get here? 5 minutes earlier we were watching a pretty standard yet slightly weird backwoods slasher. Now we're doing whatever this is. I have no idea who pitched this scene. I have even less idea who approved it, but hey, it's memorable. But this is not a great movie, so it's time to talk shit. The problem is that once the novelty wears off, the movie becomes extremely repetitive. A lot of the runtime boils down to Macy escapes, gets caught, escapes again, gets caught again, escapes again, gets caught again. At a certain point, it starts feeling like you're watching somebody repeatedly fail the same stealth mission in Assassin's Creed. And I'm talking watching it in every Assassin's Creed game. Every single one. It's that repetitive. The movie also introduces another character who Dolly is holding captive. And the second he physically appeared, I immediately knew where the story was going. The movie also does this thing where it has chapter title cards, like it's some kind of piece of fine literature, which we're following along with this movie. We have a good idea of what this script is, and it for damn sure isn't that. And the chapter titles basically spoil the reveal too. Then the movie does exactly what you expect it to do after that. It's not terrible, it's just very predictable. The final act picks up a little bit thanks to the gore. Dolly absolutely demolishes people. At one point, she basically performs a Mortal Kombat fatality where she fists someone like that entity from Whisper. There's also a cool surreal sequence involving Macy falling through an endless red void, but at the same time, why? The movie suddenly becomes artsy with no actual purpose behind it. To further back that up, there's a confusing sequence where Macy is having a panic attack in the woods, and then we see Chase's daughter in the woods going up to the dolls, and she is clearly not actually there. At least I don't think, because that wouldn't make any logical sense. But maybe it symbolizes Macy worrying about her, or that Macy now feels like a kid or something. I don't fucking know, but it pissed me off. It pissed me off. And the ending feels intentionally reminiscent of Texas Chain Saw Massacre. It's basically like that final shot in that movie, but this is dragged out to be several minutes long of just that. Yeah, not a huge fan of that. I kind of just really wanted it to end at that point. But you can tell exactly which horror films inspired this movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Wrong Turn Barbarian. So, is Dolly the next Art the Clown? No. At least not yet. Art immediately stood out because he felt completely unique. But I did not like the first Terrifier film, so maybe there's potential here. Dolly just feels much closer to an already existing horror archetype. She's basically Leatherface's creepy doll-obsessed sister. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise definitely needs a revival, which I know we're going to be getting soon from Curry Barker. That's going to be a hell of a lot better than this movie. But Dolly is still memorable. The kills are great, the design works, and I could absolutely see this becoming a franchise. But if they want Dolly to become a genuine horror icon, the sequel is going to need a much stronger story and a lot more originality. Kind of like what they did with Terrifier 2. For me, Dolly gets a 3 out of 5. It's a solid slasher with a memorable villain, excellent gore, and a genuinely creepy atmosphere. The problem is that once you get past the killer and the setting, there's not a whole lot here that feels fresh. It's entertaining, it's brutal, it's weird as hell, but it's also repetitive and heavily reliant on ideas I know that you've seen before. And you probably won't care about the characters or really anything besides seeing what gory or crazy shit the movie shows you next. But that being said, I do still think Dolly is worth a watch. The reviews have been pretty mixed, so you might love it, you might hate it, you might be like me and you're kind of on it. But if you've seen Dolly, let me know what you thought down below. Could she become the next big horror icon, or is she destined to remain in Leatherface's shadow? And as always, thank you for watching No Name Nightmares. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.